class. Okay, so when we're talking about cell transport, the only time things need to transfer from one side to the other is if there is something called a concentration gradient. A concentration gradient. So when you think of the word concentration, you should think of amount, not necessarily how hard you're thinking, but the amount. Well, I guess that's related to the amount you concentrate, the amount you think, kind of the same. Okay, so let's say we have a cell. I'm going to draw 3 cells. Okay, so here are my cells. Oops, hopefully you see them. All right, and then I'm going to show you that there are materials on either side of the membrane. And I want you to tell me whether or not there is a concentration gradient visible. Okay. Okay, I'll try this again. Okay, so here are your 3 cells. You can see with this top one, there are a lot of particles out here and only a few inside. In this second one, there are a whole bunch inside, but only a few outside. On this one, you can see there's about the same on the inside and on the outside. So which of these have a concentration gradient? Okay, the first one and the second one do. They have a concentration gradient, which means there is a difference in the concentration from one side to the other. Okay, so you can see there's a lot out here, a little bit in here, a lot in here, a little bit out here, and then here it's pretty equal all throughout. So when you have a concentration gradient, the particles want to move. They want to go from where there's a high amount to where there's a low amount. So it's all spread out. They want it to be even. So would it be even if these molecules went out or if these molecules went in? Well, it's going to even out if some of them go in. Now, will all of them go in? No, because if that happens, then we'll have another concentration gradient. Okay, so they will go in until it's equal on the inside and on the outside. Okay, for this second one, do you think these will go in or these will come out? Okay, again, they move from where there's a lot to where there's a little, so the molecules will move out. And again, they don't all move out, just enough so that they reach equilibrium. Okay, and then this last one, remember that it's equal all throughout. Does that mean the molecules just stay still? Well, you know molecules constantly are moving, okay, but they're not going to move in a mass direction here. If one molecule moves in, another will move out in order to maintain that stability, equilibrium. Okay, so we're going to have several videos on the different types of transport, but there are 3 major types of cell transport, and you can see that listed here. There is passive transport, and passive transport does not require energy. That's why it's called passive. So molecules just move nice and easy from a high concentration to a low. Okay, so it's moving from high to low. Then you have active transport. Well, active means that it requires energy. Active transport requires energy, so it's going the opposite direction. It's moving against the concentration gradient. And then the last one is bulk transport. Well, bulk should remind you of something that's kind of big and heavy. Okay, so what happens here is that instead of the molecules just transferring straight across the membrane actually surrounds material and brings it into the cell. Okay, so big things come in like that or exit like that as well. Okay, and here's just a really simple diagram to show you the difference between passive and active. Okay, so let's say we have this ramp. Okay, this is a ramp. If you have stuff up here and it's going downhill, that does not require energy, so it would be passive transport. Okay, and remember this is high and this is low. Okay, so if material is going from high to low, that would be passive transport, so no energy is involved. Okay, but what if we need to take stuff up that hill? Okay, well, it's not as easy as just pushing it down. You're going to have to really work to get it up that ramp. So what's required to get it up the ramp? Energy. Okay? And if you use energy, that means it is active transport. And hopefully you remember the energy molecule. The energy molecule is ATP. Okay, so that's just a simple diagram to show the difference between passive and active. Hopefully it will help. So passive transport requires no energy. So it's very simple. It's like riding your bike down a hill. Whereas active transport requires energy. It's pushing everything against the gradient. And so that requires energy. Okay, so we are going to have separate videos that demonstrate each of the types of transport. And again, we're talking about transport across the membrane. And remember, membranes are made up of phospholipids, but they have proteins scattered throughout to help with that process. Okay, one more thing about the membrane is that the size of the molecule can be part of what determines if it can transfer across. Oxygen and carbon dioxide are pretty small, so they can transfer pretty easily across the membrane. Remember, amino acids are the building blocks for proteins, so they're really small too and can pass right through. But when they become larger, like these polymers, proteins and carbohydrates, the membrane rejects them. They're too big, they cannot go through. Ions are another thing. Ions are charged molecules, so sodium ions, the Na+, they cannot go straight through. Now sometimes we need it, so what will we use to get it to go across? That's right, proteins, protein carriers. They would be called ion channels in that case. Okay, so we're going to stop here and we will start talking about passive transport in another video.